Load up the bowl, crank up the soul, let the informer call 911. It's hits from the bong. It's 420, baby. It's the 420 special. We got kcweedblog for all of your marijuana information. This was a really fun, good episode. It's my 420 special episode today. And if you want to know how to get your marijuana card in Missouri, we cover that. Cover some of like the politics around how the cannabis industry is, at least here in Missouri. And I think we touched on a little bit of like Colorado and California as well. This was a really fun episode, you guys. Go follow him at kcweedblog everywhere. He's starting a podcast. Everything. He's doing it the right way, the smart way by doing kcweedblog everywhere. .com, the blog, Instagram. And I hope you guys like this episode. I had a really good time with it. So if you guys are the type to partake, I would say, roll one up, load up the bong, hit your bowl, eat your brownie, whatever it is you like to do. And if you don't like any of that, this is still a good episode with a lot of fun information. And I did my sobriety challenge. I am ending it today. And it was a really good 30 days of getting clean. And no substances other than CBD and coffee. And it was a lot of fun. It's great. And I'm heading to Vegas now. And when this episode comes out, I will be poolside with a drink in my hand. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you guys subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. That's it. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Inno Talk podcast. We'll no topic is off limits. Now here's your host, my daddy, and Roy the Soul. Thank you for coming to the Inno Talk podcast. Boom, swat, boom.
In 3, 2, 1. Here we go.
Right on.
We started. Here we are.
This is it.
James with the KC Weed Blog.
KC Weed Blog. That's right.
It's awesome, man.
It's something.
Thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me out. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Tell me about KC Weed Blog. I read some of it lately.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Could be scary, could not be. I don't know. It depends on when you catch the page, I guess, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes. Some people tell me it could be scary sometimes. I don't know.
I was reading your last post about some event that you went to about, just talking about COVID, corruption. What was the other?
Oh, you're actually on the webpage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the thing. I haven't messed with the webpage in a minute.
Okay.
It's probably been 6 to 9 months since I have.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe not.
So I read something super old.
Maybe. Yeah, so more of what I've been pushing was just on like Facebook, Instagram. I fully intended to have a web page and a blog, and that's where I'm like kind of turning some corners now. Because when it started, it was kind of just started. I mean, KC Weed Blog officially started the day after Missouri voted for medical cannabis. So
when was that? That's
2018.
Oh. November
7th or 8th or somewhere the first 2 weeks of November in 2018. That's when the voters passed what was Amendment 2, which is now Article 14, which says that Missouri can have a cannabis program and medical cannabis, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I created KC Weed Blog like the next day. That was kind of like,
oh wow,
I'm just gonna, well, and by create, I mean I'm just like, I'm gonna start the Facebook page. I'm gonna go buy the domain name and let's see what happens, right? So I've been a web guy before, so that's why I built the web page first. I started typing the articles because I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this kind of blog thing. I'll push content, like bigger articles out, what I have to say.
Geared towards just kind of Missouri or Kansas City or what?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I've been in Kansas.
The weed scene?
Yeah, and it's like I don't claim to be like anybody that was in any kind of weed scene prior to 2018, you know what I mean? I know that there was groups and there was the pioneers and all that, and I don't know anybody or a lot of people in that world. I know a few people, you know. But I think some people know me as being just kind of the James, the IT guy that also smoked weed and had fun, you know what I mean? So, yeah. So I've been around smoking weed in Kansas City for at least 20 years, I'm 39 years old, and I believe some of the first parties I would come down to like Westport, that area, and some of the house parties and those, and in that area, 16, 17. So yeah, it's been close to 25 years of smoking weed and parties in Kansas City. And I'm just a consumer. I'm just the guy there, you know what I mean?
Just a connoisseur, just a dude that likes weed?
Not really. I mean, it was like, I work in corporate. I've worked in the corporate kind of IT space, IT and customer tech support for the last 15 years, probably as well too. So it's like, I would go back and forth between these worlds of I'm 8 to 5. I've got a polo shirt on and khakis and driving whatever company truck and going and fixing people's, technical problems.
Okay.
And then I'd get off and I'd be like 5:30, 6 o'clock, first joint. Hey, it's Friday. What are the boys doing? Hey, it's Saturday. Or is it, what concert are we going to? And that kind of stuff. So for me, when I was like, oh, hey, the voters passed this in 2018, I was like, I want to put something out there. I want to tell, maybe it was just me wanting to tell my story first, but then it's kind of turned into something to where, I already feel normal. I've gone through the battle. Now maybe I can share that ability with somebody else and kind of just be out there a little bit. So
the battle of what?
Going from the illegal drug trade, having a medical market, and then what's kind of turned now into a very limited supply, high price. That's why, a lot of people aren't rushing out to the stores and buying it right now because it's still cheaper on the streets than it is in the stores.
Okay.
So that's, and I didn't set out to like report or record on that when I started the page, but because I kind of introduced myself to the industry, it's kind of like, I guess I kind of went that way.
You feel obligated to kind of touch on that, or is it more like people are interested in this, so I'll do it for the content and for what people want?
Well, I kind of, at least in Kansas City, I showed up in the scene in Kansas City just with some history from Denver and from Vegas, because like in 2014, I went and helped build some dispensaries and cultivation facilities. At first, we went in and gutted out some of their shitty camera systems and security systems that weren't working, that had them fail compliance. So I was part of the team that got them back in compliance so they could grow. So I had technical cannabis experience.
Okay.
So then that wasn't really the goal of kcweedblog. kcweedblog was just to be fun, kind of, pitch magazine style, just like, hey, I want to put that out there, know, like, hey, here's my fun. I would actually be like choose to be more comical if I could.
Yeah.
And I'm actually trying to push myself to be more comical and be less cynical towards certain things that I might have talked about before, or posts that I have. But at the same time, I'm still in here having a conversation with other people. And, 2 days ago, I was doing an interview that people were really concerned about the topics because of, how scoring happened and licensing. And there's a lot of drama out there in the cannabis game.
I have no idea. I have no idea what's going on out there. I imagine there's all kinds of shady business deals, backdoor deals, lucky, unlucky people just surrounding the fact when all of a sudden a community, a whole state, all of a sudden gets the go light for doing something that was illegal for so long.
Right.
I imagine there's a lot of
so
interesting actors that are getting involved in this kind of situation.
You're going to have a transition period. And here's where I had my first realization of what a transition period was like when I was in a dispensary in Denver on one of the more, kind of rougher area spots, little dingier, kind of like what you would expect going to a small time liquor store, kind of run down, bars on the window style. So I was in a dispensary like that, and we were going through and we were having to like clear out like desk space and stuff like that, and you're opening drawers and you start finding rounds in the cabinets and shit just lying around, and you're like, man, they use bulletproof glass everywhere and armed guards, and I'm just like, man, we're going through a conversion right now. You know what I mean? And it's like, then like kind of what's on the opposite end of that is like, well, who's coming in, and right. So I had a gut check realization, like, oh shit, not only should I be worrying about like feds coming in and raiding the place that I'm trying to help build, I also have to worry about why are these people arming themselves against the streets as well, because I don't want to meet the people from the streets that are, because you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, at least
you don't want to meet the people that are coming in that they have a reason for having packed.
So I feel like that might have been a glimpse of a world that I hope that I've missed from here on out.
Okay.
Because I know that probably prior to that there was probably, before there was legal cannabis, who were the suppliers, right?
Right.
So we all, that's its bottom line is that a lot of the suppliers had to be criminals, right?
Neighborhood drug dealer.
Well,
and pusher man.
Yeah. So,
right.
So you take that to the macro level of where that ends up, and then you're talking about cartel stuff, and so you're just like, okay, what world am I not wanting to step into? That was my first gut check,
Sure.
right? So then I was like, so when I wanted to get involved in cannabis here in Missouri and Kansas City, I was kind of more of like, yeah, I'll do security if I have to, because that's what we're good at maybe. But at the same time, kcweedblog was meant to be like, hey, maybe I'll make some money and maybe we can throw some parties.
Nice.
You know what I mean? And that was kind of the goal when I first started it. I wrote a few personal articles, one of the ones that, if it's on the website, I took the time to like sit down and write about.
I was going to say it was well written.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, I appreciate that. Some people might think I've actually been told I was like illiterate by somebody out there in the cannabis game not too long ago. Haven't even met the person before, and he's just like, you're an asshole.
It means you're doing something right.
So
you got haters, you got doing something right.
Yeah,
Fuck that guy.
I guess so, right? So it's a crazy world trying to be in the middle of like the mix of what's going on the day to day. So the biggest part of all of that, the biggest driver, right, is the fact that you had all these people in Missouri that invested a lot of money into being licensed to the program, and then you had over a 90% denial rate on those applicants, right? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people cry foul. I'm actually open to the idea that there were payoffs, because I've had people tell me that they were like, hey man, we were propositioned, but we're not going to testify. So like, I'll never give you their names either, even so that, you know what I mean? Like I'm like, oh shit, it's sticky, man. Why
Why not tell on them? Because I guess for the same reasons you wouldn't tell on somebody.
Because people get scared, man. And when you're talking about millions of dollars and big business and shit like that, people are legitimately scared. They're like, man, what kind of world am I about to confront, right?
Yeah, I guess if you're not a journalist or have a platform,
right?
I guess you're probably just better off shutting your mouth,
right?
I guess.
I don't know.
Could you get an anonymous source that's telling you?
I don't know, man. So that's the thing. That's the thing. I don't have. That's beyond.
I am
me.
out there officially saying now. I will take some anonymous sources. I'll blast people. I don't care.
Well, that's the thing. So
I'm a renegade, James. Let me tell you, I'm a renegade.
Really?
That's right. I'm a hardcore. This is the hardest podcast in Kansas City.
Hardest.
I will come at you.
Okay.
That's right.
Cool.
I ain't scared. Let's go.
All right.
I'll name these motherfuckers. Anonymous people, drop it to me. neandertalkpodcast@gmail.com. I'll put these bad actors on blast.
Right. So that there's that. When there's a ton of money that's involved with it. There was a big debacle with like the way it was scored, and I feel like it was bullshit too. I feel like it was bullshit in the way that it was scored, but then I also feel like it was bullshit that they denied so many people.
What do you mean it was scored? How it was scored? What does that mean?
The state who decides who gets a license and who doesn't outsourced the scoring of these applications, right? So
what's a score? But they give each application a score, and it depends on who scores the highest. And what are the scores based on?
Like your detailed business plan and like liquid assets and security plans and all these, like, show us that you're serious about this, because we're not trying to manage ins and outs. We want to lock it in now and be done with it, basically. You know what I mean? So
and there was only a certain amount of applications. Like, why
they had over 2,000.
I mean, not applications, but licenses. Like, why couldn't they just give is there a certain amount of liquor stores that there's allowed to be?
That's the biggest monkey in the room, or the elephant in the room for everybody, is that why did there was 2,000 applicants, and that all paid non-refundable fees in the tune to 6 to 10 to whatever thousands, right?
Right.
That the state's like literally using to litigate the people from you know where I'm going here.
I understand. Politics is dirty.
It is just fucking crazy right now, right? So it's been crazy. So now what happens and what's been happening in my reflection of the cannabis industry culture right now is that now you're having a separation between people that, like, everybody rallied at once to get the vote to pass, and now there's just like clear there's every day there's a new divide or a new beef, or you're not pure, I'm not pure, you're a sellout, I'm a so it's a lot of shots going on like social media and things like that.
As far as licensees and licensors,
think about
who's
like
having beef.
A lot of people have beef. There's lawyers out there online that are part of not only teams that applied, but teams that are suing the state, for appeals and stuff like that. All these, and maybe I just need to disengage with all these community groups. Sometimes that might be the better answer. It's just to not watch the chatter, actually. I think
That is
I
the
think
answer.
that's what that's what I'm catching from you. You're like, just log off, bro.
I am doing this 30-day challenge, as many people are aware of.
I know. I was aware, and I was like, man, that sucks.
And
I'll
that
get you.
doesn't
I'll get
suck.
you.
It's
I'll get you
good.
next time.
It's great. I love it. I love being clear-headed. I love waking up where I'm not hungover. Part of the reason I was doing this break is because on the podcast, I just had realized I wasn't thinking as quickly as I should be thinking, and I was stumbling over certain words that I shouldn't have, and I was like, oh, my brain needs a break. And so that's why it was. But so during this time of sobriety, I've looked at a lot of different things differently. And one of the big things is trying to eliminate the poison in my life that isn't just necessarily alcohol or whatever, or it's also the kind of toxicity that all of us bring into our brains when we're on social media. Like I like Instagram a lot because it's as non-toxic as you want it to be. It's just mainly pictures of shit that you're interested in. Everybody knows that. Facebook, on the other hand, is just a cesspool.
It's brutal.
Of angry,
So brutal.
Angry people from millennials to zillennials to alpha to
Right.
boomers. I mean, everything. They're all fighting with each other, and it's just. I'm not like I get trapped into these sucker conversations.
Oh, yeah.
It's just so. That's one thing I'm trying to eliminate is shit like that. It's because of that reason. It causes so much stupid stress and arguments.
It can. It actually, and that's what actually happened last week. It got me again. Like some dude's comments, about what I was involved with a project was like come into question. I literally spent like 24 hours just like anxious about it, 'cause
Right.
and I was like heading into a show that I was getting paid for, and I was like, man, like. This is like, because it wasn't just me. It was just like, it was pissing off the talent and one of the guests and everybody. Like there was just a lot of stress going on with everything. And I was like, man, this is all off just some internet chatter.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, that can affect you. That can affect you in a lot of ways. I went home that night after the show was fine. I went home and I was like, fucking killed way too much Jameson. And, I was like, woke up the next day and now I'm all fired up because I finally got out of the system somehow. But so it's weird.
Our brains aren't developed for this.
Yeah.
The internet is way too fast. Social media is way too fast. Our mind, our brains, our bodies are designed to handle stress.
Oh yeah.
And it's in a more primitive way. We're supposed to get stressed out if we're running low on food, or if there's a predator around that we don't know how to get rid of, or shit like that from way back to caveman times, right? But our brain still understand stress when it comes to like internet shit. Okay, when it comes to like social media, it still gives us that same reaction that we got when we weren't supposed to be stressed out that often. And now we're getting that kind of stress all the time, and it's just a slow poison that you just start taking and taking and taking. You don't even know you're taking it, and it's just nothing good can come from it.
And I can understand that completely. I think that in the last 6 months, where I'm now kind of like out on the fringe and just doing like, I'm kind of pretty much like all in on cannabis at the moment, because I'm my paycheck comes from some of that as a contract, and it's just like, aside from being like the W-2 salary employee that I've been my entire life, but I will say this is that in regards to poison, is that when I was working that corporate life, man, I would come home and I would drink a lot more.
Okay,
and,
sure.
And I was talking to somebody else about this last night at a gig that I was at. We were both talking, and we were about how like, man, Sunday nights were like the worst.
Yeah, because you got to go to work the next day.
So you're just like, and I was like, when I was younger, I might've been a day drinker more so, you know what I mean? And when I was like in my 20s, I was the guy that was like still kind of half in the bag every Sunday morning, you know what I mean? But then as you get older a little bit, you become a little bit more responsible. Even sitting on your couch having more than you should have cocktails can be problematic. And so like, I've even recognized in myself in the last 6 months, and my wife's like, yeah, you're sleeping more, you're drinking a lot less. And it's like, because that stress, people use those certain things to actually combat it. Right. And that's why we
self-medicate.
That's why we allow certain things into our body. Right. So that's all. Yeah.
It's a tough world being a human being in 2021.
It's a psychological, isn't it? Is it a psychological effect with drinking? And, I mean, it kind of has to be, right? Because
For some people.
Yeah.
I think for some people it's more physiological. They just get addicted.
Yeah.
They just get addicted. I mean, and it might have started off with a psychological reason, like I'm trying to ease the pain, I'm trying to numb the pain, or forget shit, or just feel better.
Yeah.
And then it eventually gets to, can get to a place of addiction, and then I'm sure we've all seen that, a loved one, or a friend or an acquaintance at least, that's that alcoholic. Right. That's but the functioning alcoholic. Like, I lived with one for a while, and it's a nightmare living with.
Yeah.
It's fun at times, but then other times, like, oh my God. And then it's also sad because you see a dude drinking a fifth a night, a case of beer a night, and then they'll wake up the next day and go to work. I'm like, oh my gosh, how are you doing that? How are you?
I might have been there once or twice before.
Yeah, I don't understand how people can do that. That's just woo.
Well, I think motivation in kind of dictates a little bit of, outcome after the fact, you know what I'm saying? So if you can, I know guys that can definitely throw down and consume, and they're hard hat wearing. Can I curse on this show? Is that free to do? Sorry, I haven't.
Of course.
Yeah.
Internet, baby.
I was like, I've had to toe that line on some other shows that I've been on, so I had to ask real quick.
let it ride.
I DJ'd a high school prom last night too, so I'm like, I'm still coming off of that. Like,
what's that like these days? What's a prom like in the age of COVID?
Last night it was like, and I don't mean to talk or throw, or I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know what anybody's views are. I try not to have any views. Like, I'm just on the front lines helping people have fun. But last night was probably like 75 kids, no masks. We were doing fucking cha-cha slide, Cupid shuffle, man. Like it was just
nice.
Like it was back in the day. So
good.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
I want that.
Yeah. I actually, I'm vaxxed now. I've been in Kansas City. I go, there's like 4 masks in my car because everywhere I go, it's always been on, and it's been that way for the entire year. And I don't, I respect personal freedoms, but at the same time, I just played along. You know what I mean? Okay. So for this one, I give everybody one. So if this is the first pandemic in my lifetime, maybe the second one, I might be like, are you sure? Because so.
Well, there you go.
There you go. Plus, I got a lot of family that are in medical field, and so they kind of push me to do that stuff. Okay. So yeah, but I've been in the event world for a long time. Mm-hmm. Off and on being a DJ, freelance AV. I go to a lot of like different businesses, and I've been in a lot of big venues, right? Like I've even worked at Union Station for a month in the last year. So like you're around tons of people, right? Just so many handshakes, so many things. I would do corporate AV at like the Mulebach, Marriott, downtown, stuff like that. Trade shows, corporate trade shows, and you'd have hundreds of people coming through there. You're climbing around, pulling XLR cables off the ground, wrapping them around, looking at your hand, looking at all the grime that's coming off the floor when the event's over. You know what I mean? And so, like, for me, I've always felt that I kind of had probably a built-up immune system just because I was always coming into contact with something. Right. And then at the time, my wife was working as a contractor for Cerner in one of their like cafeterias, and like they had international travelers through there like every day of the week. So I was already, when this all started for me, it was like we were already in high traffic, high volume. Yeah. And then because I did IT at the time, I was doing tech support. By April of this time last year, I was already, hey, there was your couple weeks at the work from home. Now we got some job sites we got to roll. Yeah. So I've been out. So I went for 4 or 5 months. Just going back and like fixing Wi-Fi's, replacing cameras, going to offices. Some offices were full staff and all masks, and some offices where nobody was there because they were all working remotely.
It's funny how it is, right? Everyone's got their own little, wherever you go, it's either full mask or no mask. Yeah,
so I ain't scared. I've done about 15 to 20 weddings now since July of last year, and 5% of the people wear masks, and it's I have not been sick. The only time I get sick is when my daughter brings something home from daycare.
That's the worst.
Oh yeah, that stomach bug will fucking kill you. So,
yeah, kids are little petri dishes, man. Yeah. I'm more afraid of whatever they're gonna pass to me than COVID.
So I just crushed cannabis all day long. Probably about 4 or 5, 6, 7 bowls a day maybe. And
they said back early on, for a few months that THC might be beneficial for you during COVID, that it
Could
can help
be.
battle it.
I mean, there's a lot of medical benefits to it, and that's kind of the point too. You know, like I've always kind of been a punk rock, like stoner type, like, you know, I'll always have joints at the rock show kind of person. And you know, as you get older, you know, almost approaching 40, and you're like, okay, well, I'll still go to a rock show, I'll still do that, but I'm probably not going to be like hanging off the side of the car, you know, with a bong in hand kind of thing either. But the cool thing now is that, you know, now that we have this law, I'm a patient and I've got a cultivator license, so I can legally grow at home and I can possess. So as long as I'm not showing any signs of impairment and can, you know, manage my persons, it's no longer something that somebody's going to jail for. Right. So that's the big shift now. And that was the big shift. And that's what I realized, that, you know, the day after the vote, I was like, oh, sweet, we have a leg up now. We can now we can really like try to normalize this a lot faster.
And now you won't get that pit in your stomach when there's a cop behind you.
Exactly. So one of the benefits that I got, what kcweedblog actually presented to me was not necessarily like, hey, kcweedblog is going to be this big, huge thing that I create and all of a sudden becomes something on its own. What it did was it put me on the radar for some other people's projects. And so now I've done about like 30 to 40 live broadcasts with the Evolution magazine. You know, and it's something that they pay me to do.
Cool.
And we're having cannabis conversations and normalizing cannabis, and, you know, for veterans, and we have nurses on the show and all this other stuff. So that's kind of where, like with kcweedblog, I kind of got distracted in the last 6 months. Because I was just working on other people's stuff.
Okay.
But now it's turned into the saving grace, almost like how I weathered the storm of going from corporate world to not, and needing a new job in the middle of still COVID times, you know what I'm saying? And there's plenty of work out there for me, but at the same time, it was just like, this is giving me an opportunity to actually, you know, not take kcweedblog to the next level, but actually allow me to stay involved in cannabis. So maybe I still have something to say.
You were saying that you've lost jobs because of your weed blog, or
it was one of the reasons.
said?
It was one of the reasons that I was given. I won't talk too much about it, but there's a lot of history there because the job that I lost was part of kind of what built out some people, some groups leg up here in Missouri. You know, like I said, I was back there and we were out in 2014 and 2015 for somebody that also was here in you know, Kansas City, Missouri. That is operating.
Okay.
That is operating, actually. They're open and operating.
Okay.
And so, but I kind of, I don't want to go into too much of it, but it was.
That's all right. I'm not going to.
I'm definitely, like I said, I'm sleeping a lot better. I'm drinking less. You know what I mean? I'm distanced from the people that were causing me stress.
Nice.
And it's kind of a weird situation. You can look it up, but they're one of they were the first manufacturer company here that's actually been putting stuff out. So any of the new stuff that you see at the stores, like the gummies, the sodas, and all that good stuff.
I have not been to a store. I don't have my license.
So you don't even know any of that kind of stuff. I don't know shit. You
That's
just like
what
to
you're here
smoke weed,
for.
right? You just like to smoke weed. You don't know any of the ins and outs and the details.
I don't know nothing.
That's
man.
all.
I'm just
better.
a dude.
Just enjoy that. Like just fucking smoke weed and yeah, and go to parties, go to events. You know, it's like we do through a lot of, you know, the culture tries to put together events because it's like, hey, we need to get more people out doing these things on a Saturday afternoon, having positive conversations, things like that. And the biggest benefit, and this is the reason why, you know, I chose to be a cannabis consumer 20 plus years ago, right? Like I would call myself recreational James. Like I've been a rec dude for a long time, right? We just have fun. But the cool thing is that, oh, okay, that helps you feel better too, Grandma. That helps you like avoid these pills, bro. Like,
right.
Veteran, you're like getting through some of your nights without this and that. And then I'm hearing people say that, like on our pod, on their live show, I get to hear these like stories every day. And it was the same stories that I would hear when I was in Colorado, when I'd be working at a medical facility on a Monday, Tuesday, hanging cameras or fixing computers, and you'd see the old ladies and the people coming in, and they're just so friggin' happy to be walking in there and getting something. And they were and they're the ones that'll buy like the low THC percentage, or they'll buy the more mellow stuff because they're literally mitigating pain. I'm just over here like
Yeah.
fucking blaze it up, right? You know, like
like I said, I'm a big CBD fan. I like the gummies. I like the flower of it. It's I just enjoy what CBD does for me. It just relaxes me, and like a hard day at the gym, it'll help with inflammation. And yeah, so I like a big CBD fan. I don't know much about the stores, the THC side, as far as legality, how you even get a card. Like how do people go about getting a medical card in Missouri?
Well, so like I had a time where I was like dealing with some arthritis in my back, and so that was kind of like that. You could do physical
Damn,
therapy,
arthritis in your back?
like just in one of
Doctor said I need a backiotomy.
just so they were like, hey, you know what? Here's the thing. They may have overdiagnosed me.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Because it may or may not work to my advantage when I'm requesting certain things, right?
Sure.
And that's how that field works, right? So here's the thing though. If I were to qualify for a medication for like a back pain medicine, right? My insurance would probably pay for that, right? I might have a deductible, but the biggest cost would be probably covered if I have a good plan. Maybe it's, obviously there are people that don't have good plans too.
Yeah.
But so the funny thing about with like, cannabis is that it's so easy to produce and it can help people so much that, when you're talking about all that money that was used to produce these like pain pills, that now cannabis can mitigate for people, it's like, oh, well, now the pharmaceutical company's a little upset. And I think the pharmaceutical.
Well, yeah, that's why I've been fighting it for the past.
So at least
100 years.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. So that's there's that part of it too, right?
80 years.
There's so many elements, like there's so many elements to cannabis now becoming a legal, socially acceptable thing because for the last 80 plus years,
it's been propaganda.
Yeah,
really and
bad.
It's these older generations that have fallen for the propaganda that are still in control of everything. And
yeah, you know how bad. I'll tell here's my example, and here's my brief like family history of it. So I came from the Bay Area, California, born in 1982. My dad was like a Haight-Ashbury hippie, 1968, 69, 70. Talk about going to see the Doors, Joplin, Hendrix, all that stuff, right? Dope. So imagine that, right? I'm James. I was born into Wonderland. Like, we're going to have fun, right? Well, flash forward, moved to Missouri when I was like 10 and go to high school, junior high, DARE era, 90s, right? And even the hippie parent was like pissed off that I was starting to smoke weed. You know what I mean? So it was like, and it just kind of went, it became something that I was always in trouble for.
DARE was such a horrible, horrible program.
I actually, so you know where like Research Psychiatric is on, here's some gold for anybody that follows. You know where Research Psychiatric is on, what is it? 63rd over by the hospital at 63rd.
Is that by the VA? Is that?
I don't know. Anyway, my parents actually checked me in there when I was like a freshman in high school for weed.
For weed?
Yeah, dude. And
Damn.
There was other stuff going on in my life that were way crazier than weed, but they use that as kind of like this is the reason why we can force you to go in there.
Okay.
And so, it was fine. Like I did a month of
crazy?
Yeah, crazy, right? And then obviously as a kid, teenager getting, I've been arrested. I got off lucky, and I want to clarify that right now because I got off lucky. I only did 10 days in a city jail for a couple grams of weed. This was like in 99 or
people
2000.
don't understand what it was like back in the late 90s, early 2000s as someone that was in the world of weed. Like if you were a pot smoker, if you're just a pot smoker trying to first of all,
I was riding my bike and like throwing my weed bag across the field because I didn't want to go to jail that night. You know what I mean? And all I was doing was riding out to my, friend at the time to go meet up with them. And I was on a fucking bicycle and I was still scared to go to fucking jail because I had a bag of weed in my pocket. That's what
it was dangerous back. People don't understand.
Yeah. And I'm going to say this right now because like we are talking about it and I don't think enough people talk about it, but like the racial disparity in that and the people that have suffered the most are not me. And black and brown people are, the statistics show 4 times more affected by arrests.
Right.
Like straight up.
Well, the reason why it's illegal
it's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that's
racial.
Yeah,
it was. It was the propaganda was as the blacks and the Mexicans are raping our white women. So we have to outlaw.
That's why I say
reefer madness and bullshit.
That's why I say when I did 10 days in a city jail, that was nothing.
Right.
Because I know that there are people still incarcerated right now.
I know.
So I'll wear a weed shirt. like a pot leaf shirt or something like that, and I'll go shop at Brookside because I'm live in Waldo, Brookside, Kansas City. You know, the place to shop on a Saturday afternoon, and you know, you get some looks. You know, like you'll get the guy that's like, yeah, man, I like your shirt. You know, he's probably wearing a Colorado shirt or something like that. But you know, the worst looks that I get, I'm gonna say this, is that it's the older black ladies that look at me like, you motherfucker.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you're coming in here to this store, you're gonna wear that fucking shirt, you motherfucker.
Okay.
And I can see that, man. And I'm not upset about that. I'm kind of feeling what it is. And it's like, man, it's because their husband or brother or somebody in the family has suffered.
Serve time for
so
a couple
much
grams of pot.
Lives ruined, dude.
Yep.
I mean, like, you get a felony, life ruined. You know what I mean? Like, where are you at? So, like, socioeconomically after that, right? So I just wanted to recognize that since we brought it up.
Sure.
I got off lucky, and then I learned how to put a collar on, go work in the corporate world, get high, take a shower, go to work. You know, prime up, wash it off so nobody can smell it, and then just go get to work and get shit done. So I learned how to do that, but you know, other people didn't get that chance. And so that's the other element of the last 20 years of cannabis, is that, you know, our whole country is going through this conversion process. You know what I'm saying?
Slowly, very, very, very slowly, but at least it is happening.
I mean, what, 30, I think there's 37, 8, 9. I mean, New York was the latest one that I've got on my radar. I'm sure there's other stuff going on. New York just passed it. So I got buddies from New York like, hey, James, like, tell me how to use your Raspberry Pi thing and grow this and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that's cool, dude.
It's awesome. We just need it federally. We need it federally done. You know, it's great that the states are weaseling in with medical, and a few of them are getting it in recreational. But until the feds, you know, it's legal at the federal level. Yeah, it's just I don't know. I'm not going to be happy. Well, it's fully happy. You know, it's just isn't it about time? Let's go. I mean, I can't believe Trump didn't do it. Like, dude, it could have been one of the last things he did. I don't understand why that fucking idiot didn't do it. And Biden's a fucking moron too, and I can't believe, you know. And then he's got, I don't want to go down that road, but Biden better do it. There's been some actually Democrats right now, because something just passed in the first state south of the Mason-Dixon line, Virginia, just legalized it.
Oh, did they?
Recently,
yeah, okay. Was that like
they legalized,
maybe?
Legalized or decriminalized or something.
Yeah,
and it was they did it. But it wasn't supposed to go in effect until 2024. But I think the governor said, no, we're doing it now. We're not waiting. We're not going to let people get arrested now for something that we just legalized but won't start for another 4 years or something.
Exactly.
So we pushed that forward. And then I think Mitch McConnell is going to try and have like a conversation with Biden about like, look, it's time we get this done federally. I mean, the cat's been out of the bag. What are we doing? Who's giving you the money? Like, Clearly, someone's getting paid somewhere that's keeping it. It's not. I mean, it's clear. It's clear as day. You can't put toothpaste back into the tube.
If you do it slow enough, you can just convert all that money to your friends' pockets and all that kind of stuff, right?
That's going to happen anyway.
Yeah, I know. So, but yeah, no, that's the thing, is that, you know, that's the people that suffer that equation at the end of the day are the consumer and the patients and everybody. You know what I mean? There are a lot of people making a lot of money off of cannabis
being illegal. A lot of people are making a lot of money off it being illegal.
Well, so check this out. They also make money off of it because it's highly regulated, right? So now you have an entire consultant industry that are cannabis consultants that go in and charge whatever they want because they know cannabis compliance and reliability. You know, name me other businesses that you can go out and start as a person in a free market America that have to have all these extra layers, you know, just to open business.
Right. Probably not many outside of California.
Yeah. So, but. So that's another leg in the fight for people, is that if you know, there's people that I know that wanted to be business owners and they didn't score as well, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, that's the thing that sucks, is that there is a set number of people that they're allowing, which is such bullshit. Like, I thought this was an open marketplace. I thought this was capitalism. Let anybody get in that can.
Doesn't that make sense?
If you can pass the regulations, fine, then get involved. Because how many people do you know that want to get into that business, but they just can't because, like you're saying, license is denied.
So remember, a lot of people applied, and a lot of people were denied.
Right.
And the fee between the
it's non-refundable
between the applicants tuned up to about 20 mil. So you just took 20 million out of. Let's just say we just took 18 million out of small business investment in Missouri. You know what I'm saying? And they're using that money, some of that, not all of it, because it's supposed to be earmarked for like Veterans Commission and stuff like that. But some of it, they're using it to actually pay the fees to litigate the people that are applying, that are put in appeals with the state. Like, hey, I paid hey, your scoring process sucked. Hey, I paid my $10,000, $20,000, because that was $10,000 per license, non-refundable.
Yeah. Wow.
And there's people that applied.
That's so much money.
There are people that applied for 11 licenses.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Right.
Damn.
So
$110
so
grand.
all these teams got together and were like, we're going to go full boat. Let's go full boat. You got a couple G, you know what I mean? Like, so
Right.
all these groups started coming together, and like it's because they had to, you had to push. So what I'm getting at though is that think about that. Like, think about some guys that just decide to go out and invest in something, right? Mm-hmm. Or everybody's like, oh, hey, let's do this. Let's go invest like $100 grand and let's do this business. We've got a beautiful plan, and they do, right? And if it was a microbrew plan, they would have just fucking killed it. They would have been the next hot microbrew in the middle of the crossroads. Everybody be going there and game on, right?
Yeah.
So why are we hyper-regulating cannabis to an extent that
I guess probably because it's federally illegal still, maybe. Right? Would that be their excuse? I mean, that's the only thing I can come up with as an excuse.
how can you use that excuse if you're still allowing this to happen in this state? Like, are you?
I don't know. I just know that there's got to be some kind of dance they're partaking in because it's not federally legalized. Like, what's the regulations like with a dispensary now here in Missouri, and their relationship with a bank? Like, how can they do they have to use cash? Could our banks going to allow?
If you get on the website of dispensaries, in Missouri, you'll still probably see that, we're a cash only dispensary. So that I don't think has changed anytime soon from when I was out in Colorado and it was a lot of cash.
Right. So I can see maybe that's some kind of obstacle that they're using because it's not legal federally, is because the banks don't want to deal with these dispensaries, right?
Sure, and that's why they said you had to have like liquid capital that was part of it. They wanted you to show, obviously they wanted to show that you had money in the first place. That's why they had these fees and everything too. But it's just crazy because I look at it as like I have people out there that are friends of mine or business colleagues, or like I said, I've ridden my bike in your neighborhood. Like I've been
not at night. I hope
no. You want to? Hey, dude, I'm like yeah, whatever.
Just kidding around, folks. I live in a gated community on a golf course. Fuck off.
There is a golf.
Could you imagine?
We used to what's the golf course over there off Lee Summit Road? There were some apartments across the street, and we used to party over there with some people too.
I have no idea.
I used to cruise. Yeah, this was like almost 20 years ago. That's kind of funny. I've been all around Kansas City for the last 25 years, man. You know, like I lived in Independence for a while. I lived in Raymore. I lived in Lee Summit. I've worked in Kansas City. I've worked in Lee Summit. I've worked in Independence. I was at Best Buy Geek Squad over off 40 Highway across from Independence Center Mall. I was smoking weed back then too. Yeah. By the way, this was like 2004 to 2006.
Yeah,
so
congratulations.
Yeah. So I've just always been around different areas and so like that's kind of what like I could finally just be me and show out, and kcweedblog just.
I'm really happy for you that you have this outlet and this thing that you've began. You waited to start doing your weed blog right when it came ill, or when it became kind of, when it passed. How come you didn't want to start it before that, like an underground KC weed blog? Is that just because it was too dangerous?
No, because I actually wanted to be like 100%. Like, you have to accept me no matter what I say. You can't take that away from me, and all that good stuff. So, I'll bark on the page, but I try not to put anything out there that's like too vulgar or anything like that. It's crazy because there's a lot of cannabis companies and media people that say they get flagged for content a lot. And I've never been flagged for content. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, I don't know what it is about me. I don't know if it's just the way that I write, because I'm a DJ and I do like weddings and proms and stuff like that. I know how to like take the conversation and package it this way. Just like when I asked, like I checked myself before I said fuck an F-bomb on your show. And did you see that little hiccup right there? I still have to like, you know what I mean? So it's crazy. That's actually been like the saving grace of it. So being 100% legal, I'm kcweedblog. I started it the day after it was legal. So I'm saying day one, I'm legal, guys. Here's how I use cannabis.
Okay, nice.
I didn't even get my card for because you couldn't get your card right away.
Yeah, how do you get your card? Like explain how.
I didn't answer that. I apologize.
Yeah, that's all right. This show is
Yeah.
all about taking different paths.
You got to keep me on track.
Yeah.
So let's answer that. To get your card, if you have a qualifying condition, and there's a lot of qualifying conditions, if you go, the list is just, if you see an ad for somebody, or, asking like your mom group or something like that, or your, whatever, ask your buddies, like, hey, do you know who's a good place to go to? There's places,
who is a good play? Is there some that you work with or that you would recommend on mic right now, or no?
Yeah, I would actually recommend a lot of different people, and I don't. So I get paid on a different show, but I don't take any. kcweedblog's actually never contracted any money in from anybody, so and I don't get any kind of kickbacks or anything like that. Every once in a while, somebody like throws me something that I can put fire to, and that's it. Mm-hmm. Everything else is just for kcweedblog anyway. Yeah. So yeah, I know that there's a group in Raytown. It's like Missouri Medical Clinics, I believe. I can't remember the exact spot or the road. I'm pretty sure it's Raytown Road. There's like a Mexican restaurant on the west side of the street, and they're on the east side of the street as you're coming up north, maybe. So they're a good spot to go to. They also have a spot in Westport. So if you know where Riot Room is, just kind of go up the way a little bit, go back up north on the same side of the sidewalk. Mm-hmm. You kind of cut over, because the road gets kind of funky there.
Yep.
But they also have a second location there too.
Okay.
A lot of people like doing the online stuff. So you can literally do telehealth for this. So, get some paperwork that you can show, but you can actually use a phone and actually call into some of these places. Okay. And you'll tell it like kind of how we're sitting here, obviously, but with across phones, and you'll talk to a doctor, and they'll look at your qualifying condition. And that qualifying condition isn't some like big, don't go to your doctor and ask for like a big report that says you're
right.
You don't need to go there.
Don't oversell it.
Don't oversell it. Yeah. Because all of the clinic, like
I get headaches. When do you get headaches? Every time I think weed is
illegal. I'm going to say this, because I'm going to say this comment because it's not about the Missouri program, but check this out. In I think it's been 9-10 years now, I was in LA for a buddy's wedding. Okay, and all the boys were getting together because we're all part of the wedding party. You know what I mean? And
right.
Yeah, and it's one of those, and it's all the party guys. So we get out there, and he's the groom, so he's busy as fuck, and nobody else is residents.
Sucker.
So they had a medical system back there, and it wasn't recreational in California then. So you had to have a medical card to walk into a dispensary. Mm-hmm. So like here we are, we're just a bunch of guys from out of town. We couldn't really find anybody to just sell us weed. So I was like, fuck it. I saw the sign. I was on Venice Beach, the strip there where I don't know if you've ever been out there, but you
never been, but I've heard the name.
So you can go out there, and I was out there. I saw the sign, and it said, weed certs or something like that, or like get certified here. So I walk in. It's back of a head shop. I talk to a talk to a doctor.
Hey, doc, you better use air quotes when you say doctor if it's in the back of a head shop.
Right, but you know what I'm saying. But you have a certified doctor.
I'm fucking with you.
And he was probably an older guy. And he's probably retiring. He's probably just like,
get that money, King.
He's just like, I'm just gonna sit here in certified stoners,
nice.
And whatever, or patients. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interchange the two. I'm not.
Right.
I know people that actually need it, but at the time it was just like, okay, I really want some weed. I'm tired of fucking around. Right. I can see the store. The store is right there. Why can't I walk into the store? So I got certified that day, and it was a 3-month 3-month temporary California license.
Okay.
For a medical card, and I was like, yeah, I just moved here. I'm staying. I don't have a permanent address yet.
Yeah.
I looked something up on my phone, and I just memorized it within like 20 minutes.
Nice.
So he kept asking me the address like 4 or 5 times, but I had the address memorized.
Nice.
And it was, I don't know, some dude in LA might get mail with my name on it to this day because of that one meeting. I don't know, dude.
Nice.
But so I got the pass. Took about like 30-40 minutes. Yeah. And then I had this paper, and I walked into the dispensary for the first time as a legal patient in California.
Cool.
And I wasn't even living there. I was just a tourist.
I'm a tourist that skated the system.
I kind of skated.
Gotcha, bitches.
Gotcha, bitch. So that was California. I didn't do anything. I've played by all the rules here in Missouri.
You play by the rules there too. I'm allowing it. I'll allow it.
But I walked into the store, we got a bag, and then me and all the buddies like walked down to the beach and roasted a couple joints, and it was like the coolest score. And even my buddy's mom, that was a lawyer and prosecutor for a minute, like they were They were like, "That's pretty funny, James."
Nice.
Yeah. So it was then that I knew like, oh, there's going to be a shift. That was like around 2011, maybe 2012 when that experience happened. I'm like, oh wow, legal weed is coming. It just has to get here. And then I caught back up with it in 2014, 2015 in Colorado, where I was like working at med facilities, but then they also had recreational was just opening up, and getting rolling at the same time. So it was like, okay, now I can work in a med shop and I can go buy in a rec shop. Okay. And I can just be I can be a tourist in a rec shop.
Right.
Yeah. So I got to see the line between like, hey, here I faked the system.
Right.
Here's the system, and I can be a tourist. Here's the price difference between a patient and a tourist, and then here we are in Missouri.
So here we are in Missouri. So call up one of these places or go in, talk to the doctor, tell them what you have with your ailments. Don't oversell it.
Yeah,
and
that could be a prescription for like a sleep aid or something like that.
And then they're going to give you. They're going to certify you. And
it's not a certification; it's a recommendation, and then it's a recommendation only.
Okay.
So they recommend to the state that you meet the qualifying conditions that the people voted on.
Now
it's not like it's worded to not be official.
Okay, so when you
for
go
doctor protection, I think.
When you're going to this doctor that's going to give you the recommendation, can you not go to your general practitioner for a recommendation like that, or does it have to be is it a certain kind of doctor that can do this recommendation?
What it is it's almost not worth the fight. It's not worth the time. It's not worth the time of trying to convince your certified care physician to write you that script.
But could you, if you have a cool doctor and you're like, listen, like for me personally, I'm on baclofen. Can I be like, look, if I don't want to be on this shit, it fucks with my liver.
You want the easy answer or the hard answer to that? The hard answer is that he's going to have people that are manufacturers of other products that he's been selling,
right.
that might conflict with
his bottom line.
I mean, it's right. I mean,
I'm just curious.
That's if you believe that there's more to a prescription than just the prescription.
For sure. The only reason I'm asking is I'm just wondering: do you have to go to one of these places, or would it be worth it? Your next checkup for somebody.
Hey, dude, if you want the no anxiety way to get your medical card, you find a place that does telehealth, and you pick up your phone and you say, "Hey, dude, I want to get my card. Okay. Here's where I'm qualified." You know what their job is? They want to get you qualified. Okay. They're there to help you.
Right.
They will guide you through as much as you need to get to the end of that, to the end of the piece of paper. Right. There are companies that'll give them away. If you want to watch one of our shows, Evolution Live series, that I help operate, like they give away cards and certifications at times. They give away gift cards to dispensaries now.
How much is it to get certified, to get a recommendation, to get whatever it is to get your medical card? There certainly has to be a fee involved.
So there's state fees.
Okay.
First thing is state fees. Let's talk about the state fees. State fees is like $26 to be a patient, just to submit once a year. You have to have $26 a year to be a patient, and then an extra $100 if you want to be a cultivator.
Okay.
And that's a yearly basis, right? And so that's just to the state. Then you have the doctor, whatever they charge. And so when the program first started, check this out. When the program first started, there was doctors charging like $350, $400
of course it was.
Yeah, of course it was.
Of course.
So most people
cash in on that ignorance.
Fuck yeah. So I think most people probably should pay $100 or less for a certification.
Okay.
And I think people should probably pay like $75, $50 or less for renewal. And to be honest, and this might not be popular, and this is why kcweedblog doesn't have sponsors, is that I would go so far as to say is that any certification company that's out there that may hear this, you need to stop charging so much for these in the first place, because eventually you're not going to be relevant, and you know. When it goes to full rec, people are going to stop getting certified. There won't be a need to. You know what I'm saying?
Well, maybe that's why they're charging so much, because they see the end of the tunnel.
Well, yeah,
like I got to cash in as much as I can while I can right now.
So here's the biggest part of the whole problem, right? The moment that federal and our state, we get to a point where we're like, hey,
they get married and have a weed baby.
It's just cool, right? It's as cool as the liquid drinks they sell at every corner, at every bar, at every restaurant throughout America. You know what I'm saying? So when we finally get to that point, we're going to look back and we're going to say, man, look how much time and energy and money and drama and overregulation that we've already wasted, not to mention all of the resources that we wasted for the last 80 years, keeping this plant away from people. it's just
Well, and that did a horrible job of keeping it away from people too.
Right.
All they've been doing is incentivizing and giving cartels fucking power and money.
Isn't that the crazy thing is that they try to demonize it so much, but it's like it's the consumers that we're the ones that brought it back. We're going to bring it back, and it's like we're on that fight now, and
we've been fighting it since it got.
The fight existed before I was born.
Ever since it got.
I've seen normal magazines that were dated in the 70s, and I was born in '82, so I get that. I'm just another person on this big, long wave of a fight.
I've been fighting this shit since, I don't know.
Right.
What's his name? I don't know. Goddamn. I stopped drinking and everything. I can't even come up with a name. Not Harry Anslinger. DuPont. God damn it. Citizen Kane, the movie that was made about him. That had all the fucking... The decorticator. He had all the newspapers. Hearst.
Yeah.
God damn it. Hearst. Whatever.
So yeah, I mean that's so.
William Randolph Hearst. There it is. I'm back, baby. That son of a bitch. He's a big reason why it's got outlawed. He's the one that had all the newspaper publications across the country and was putting out the propaganda.
Yeah, and then it's
been fighting it for 80 years or whatever the hell it's been. Yeah,
right. I know, and that was the craziest thing for me is going from a punk rock kid that was getting in trouble every once in a while to. Now they're like, oh, James, go hang some cameras and go help us sell cannabis. And
that's awesome.
And so
you found a way in the weed business without having to be in the weed business.
No, exactly. No, so I'm an ancillary, is what you would call that. Basically, like I serve the cannabis business, but none of the money that comes to me is through cannabis sales, if that makes sense.
It does.
So, they pay for advertising and then the advertiser pays me to operate. And there's that. With kcweedblog, I've had people approach me and offer me like, hey, you want to sponsor, you want to do some stuff. And I made it pretty clear from the beginning that I wasn't going to be like a sponsor chaser. So I have zero to this day. And that means that if I say something, it's
you and I have something in common. I have zero sponsors too.
I mean, so I didn't start this show.
They can't cancel you if you ain't got no sponsor.
I didn't start like my presence. I didn't start my presence to be beholden to anybody.
Right.
I started my presence to be me.
Right. Amen.
And so, what happens is that if you take somebody on, you are especially as a producer and a creator, you're if you're co-signing it, right? Then if something goes awry with other people, or you're now associated in that camp too, right? And I'm done playing that game actually, because so that's the biggest get of why I chose to alleviate myself from working in a company that I had history with, and ultimately what led to me talking a little bit of shit, not directly but indirectly, that got me terminated at my job via email.
What job was that?
IT tech. 9 years of camera security. Yeah, it's fun stuff. Putting cameras and IT stuff in weed shops in Colorado and Nevada. But the good thing is that a lot of people were at odds for a lot of valid reasons for the people that I worked for, as a contractor again, you know what I mean? But because I worked for an IT shop, I never worked for any kind of operators out there. We were just their IT.
So anyway,
company.
Some drama with some,
whatever.
Sure.
So, but people would yell at me for who I worked for back then. So I got to Colorado.
Where the fuck do they care?
I don't know, but I got to Colorado. I got to Colorado, and people found out who I was and who I worked with and who I worked for, and they started yelling at me like, "Fuck, James, why are you working for these motherfuckers?" And I'm like,
"Who were you working? I want to know who you were working for now. Oh my gosh, why would people? What develops this kind of hate? What produces this kind of hate for a company? They shady or what?"
Well, and that's, I don't want to get into that.
No, I know. I'm just pressing you
because I'm not here to talk.
I'm just like, what the hell? Who could it possibly be? Why would you get mad at somebody for?
So here's the crazy thing is that if I want to be involved in this industry, I have to put up with the fact that I'm going to run into people anyway.
Yeah.
Even people that I've chose not to work with already.
Yeah, it's I imagine it's kind of a small world.
Yeah, it is a small world, especially right now.
Right.
So it's like. All I gotta say is that whatever, I'm cool. You do you. I'm not there anymore, so I don't have to account for it. And that's why I don't take any sponsorships, and that's why I don't want to be involved officially. So here's what I did do, and here's what I will talk about is that I used my experience to write for 7 other companies that were investing and trying to get a license. I did floor plans. I gave all of my best knowledge and technical skill to companies at a very hometown rate, if that makes sense.
Okay, cool.
So I didn't, and I feel like I made some good friendships through that process. I definitely watched people's hopes and dreams get kind of destroyed with, betting a large sum of money, if they went after more than 1 or 2 licensing. I mean, they were throwing 6 figures at it, if not more, you know what I mean? So,
Right.
so I always feel bad because I was like, man, I hope I wasn't. I was like, man, I hope I wasn't the guy on the team that fucked it up. Like I wasn't the receiver in the end zone at the end of the Super Bowl that dropped the ball. Like I just dropped the ball at the you know what I mean? So I never wanted. I was like, fuck. So I feel their frustration and their pain,
Right.
And that's why it's important for me to try to tell. That's what pulled me into the politics of it. I guess is what we could say is that. Here I was just wanting to be like, hey, we're open, we're having fun, let's do this thing. It's just going to be great. Medical prices in Colorado are great. And then all of a sudden it went to, oh, here's this limited industry that is like, we're now the second highest cost ounce retail in dispensaries in the nation.
Does every new medicinal state start off like that?
They say that.
Okay.
They say.
I mean, it makes sense.
That's the excuse, and it's an excuse in some ways, and it's the reality in other ways. But I don't think it always has to be that way, and that's why I will say this: I've never turned anybody in my life. So when I talk about some of these stories, like I would never, like if I'm talking about you, don't worry, because I would never put your name on anything. But I know people that go to Oklahoma every day, or drive to Colorado on the regular, or for the last 10 years.
It's legal in Oklahoma?
Yeah, and they've got like a crazy open market too. And for the last 10 years, you get your buddy that you're like, oh yeah, put your buddy on the train to Colorado because he's got his med card. You just pay for his hotel that night. You put him on the train. You have him send him out there, and then he just brings back a pound or two, and
Right.
So that's what's been plugging the streets for a good minute too.
Well, yeah, that's the problem with. That's why the feds need I don't know if we should say the Fed, but that's why it needs to be federally legalized, is because you've just created a bigger black market now.
So I'm going to say this right now. In Colorado, and I've called this out before, and I told a compliance manager, and they said it's working as intended. Shut up, James. We had high plant count patients that had 99 plants growed in their name in the state of Colorado. That's how their program worked. Those people would walk in and they would buy, a pound or two. And they would do it, maybe in 1 purchase or 2 purchases that same week. And if I was working at the same facility for 4 or 5 days, you'd kind of see people come and go, right?
Right.
So, you're telling me the dude that's coming in wearing bling every day that can buy a pound over the counter, and 2 days later, I'm like, same fucking strain they just harvested back out. You know what I mean? So I was like, dude, this is what's going on. So that's another leg in the fight of everything too,
right.
Is that it's like Missouri's legal, but it's still cheaper to get everything from California and Colorado and drive to Oklahoma, take a day trip. You'll save more going there and just making a day trip to another state than you will going into a dispensary. And that's why like this limited market actually it just makes it longer.
Right.
It just makes the fight longer.
Yeah, a lot of unintended consequences with something like this, clearly.
Right. And I think it's because most of the people in the department obviously are new to this site. They had no idea. You'd think they'd know by now with the culture and how open it's been in other states.
It's gotta be aren't they like you'd think they'd have people that are telling them this shit.
Right. So it's
common sense.
Right. So there are, and that's, I guess, that's why I try to use my voice sometimes too. I'm sure the Department of Health and Senior Services know who I am because I recorded a video once that may or may not was meant to be seen, but that they let stream at the end of a broadcast.
Okay.
With the directors basically saying like, I didn't want this or I didn't sign up for it. I'm just doing my job kind of thing. And, and that was in an oversight committee, post oversight. It was like 3 hours. And I was like, I don't know why I was recording it because somebody else couldn't, and they thought that it should be recorded and viewed. And so, I was doing that. I had the laptop sitting next to me. I had headphones in because my kid was a little bit younger at that time. So I had headphones listening to this oversight thing. All I was doing was just listening and recording. It ends, I hit stop on the recording on the laptop, and I'm sitting there. I probably like loaded a bowl or something. Like a minute later, some audio pops into my headphones. I'm like, what's that? I just go over there and hit record again real quick. And I actually put that on the page and uploaded it. I think it's still out there, but it was just kind of funny at the time. It was just like, oh shit. It was like, here's a glimpse into, there's an oversight committee going on right now, pulling these guys in, saying, why are there so many friggin' lawsuits? And they were just kind of like, why'd you have to do this here? Like, why'd you have to call us out in front of everybody and all this stuff? And it kind of was like somebody told me that it was like they used that to kick another can down the road with the investigation. So I was like, oh shit, I just did something, and I'm not everybody's favorite person right now because of it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
You got some politicians mad at you?
Well, yeah, probably.
Okay.
And
they're mad at everybody.
They're mad at everybody.
Yeah.
They would only be mad at the people. They're not necessarily mad at me now, but they're going to be mad at what I might say later on down the road as we fight for the adult use and an open market and all that kind of stuff too.
Well, they're dinosaurs and they just need to get with the times then.
Right.
They just need to be mad at themselves. Don't be mad at people bringing truth.
So I think one thing to focus on that I would like to share is that there's going to be there's probably going to be a couple options for the people of Missouri in the next.
Let's put a pin on that real quick. I got to go pee. I had a lot of water. Let's pause this real quick and then we'll start back up with.
I can
where you want to
close
go
that out.
Yeah.
What time? I'm fine too, by the way, on time. I don't know how long you normally roll.
We'll keep going. I just want to pee and then come back. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right.
You can cut that out.
Maybe I won't. All right, Charles, stop this real quick. Don't call it a comeback. Here we go. Thank you guys for allowing me that break. I am, not the greatest podcast host because of my bladder.
You're fine. It is cool. Like you just walk straight into this place, ground floor. Don't have to worry about load in, load out. I mean, it's nice. So
Ready to go.
I like how you just kind of bring it right in, bring it to it. So
what's that when you walk in the studio and it's just you open the door and bam,
you're
studio,
here.
You're in my stew.
Yep,
That's
cool.
right.
I dig that. I love it.
Thanks, man. I worked hard on it. I like it. It's a fun little environment.
Yeah.
This is my favorite thing. Every Sunday, my favorite thing to do.
It was funny going from like professional studios at audio school and then like playing in a rock band in a dingy basement with like spider webs and stuff like that, and always trying to like find the difference in between the two, right? I think one thing that I would love to do before I get too old was like have a house that I could build a studio in, you know what I mean? And that's where maybe some of my struggles over the last 6 months have come, is that with career change, job, I stumbled into another organization that was going to let me use an office to broadcast out of.
Okay.
And so I don't know if you saw that I've got a couple YouTube videos that are like the interview series, and I got through 4 of them. The fourth one was kind of like when COVID was really making it hard to book anything, or he's getting bad at the time, because it was towards the end of the year with the holidays, and then so I got through 3 episodes with 3 of like the guests that I really wanted to have on, and I was going to start going through even more people in cannabis media. A lot of people produce their own content. Everybody has a YouTube something.
Sure.
There's a lot of competition out there, I guess, if you want to look at it as competition. I don't look at it as competition with people, with content creators. I actually enjoy that you've asked me to come out here. I just kind of rebooted my podcast as an audio only because that's what's easier for me to do right now and not focus on like the space in the studio and all that kind of stuff. So
mine was meant to be audio only, but I was like, there's $80 for cameras. I'll just throw a couple of those and throw it up on YouTube. What the hell? But most people listen to this. Hardly anybody watches it.
Well, and I think that's what I realized is that what I needed, I'm trying to provide now what I kind of felt like I needed. I wasn't getting a good audio environment because everybody does like live stuff and it's all about, are you live in the chat? Are you interacting? And if you're not watching what's going on, you're are you getting it? So there's some things that you could kind of listen in and tune in. So that's why I was like, I want to force myself to do something that is good to put on like Spotify that I'd be proud of.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because as a audio engineer, as a live sound guy, as a person that's played in some bands, briefly at certain times in my life, I'm like, the audio quality matters to me.
Oh, if you're going to do a podcast or anything, your audio has to be on point. People are going to tune out.
Yeah, that's why I spent like $400 on this mic. I actually have 2 of them. I got,
interface.
Yeah,
I'd love to have those. These mics I have are pretty good.
Yeah,
but they're not,
I wasn't trying to be offensive. I just knew that
I
I'd slobber all over this. Like,
I took no offense to it whatsoever.
Yeah, because I was just like, you know what I mean? Like,
bring your mic.
Yeah. Like I got my mic, I got my headphones, we good, and honestly, I kind of use it. It's every mic's got a flavor, right? So I'm trying to carve this flavor out there.
Your brand, your voice is your brand.
So when you hear my voice,
with you.
when you hear my voice on this show, you're going to hear the same voice over on
on
my show too, because
unless I fuck with it and put some auto tune on it.
Hey man, you know what? Honestly, like have at it. It'd be fun. I think it's funny. I give people creative control over anything that I put out. You know what I mean?
Right.
On that topic, so I'm kind of a tech nerd. I'm kind of an IT guy, and so I have conversations with people because I've put out like I've got a Raspberry Pi in my grow tent in my basement. And the Raspberry Pi has like temperature humidity sensors on it, and I use it to automate my lighting control for my plants and like humidity and temperature and all that good stuff. So that's some of the content that I've put out on kcweedblog that's been positive. Just kind of, hey, here's some cool shit.
Right.
Hey, we're blazing on the 4th of July. Have a great Friday. So I still try to kind of push that out. I probably just need to do that on like Instagram, just get off Facebook entirely. I should take a 30-day Facebook break.
I think you should. I did that before, and then I ended up deleting it off everything.
Here's the
for like a couple of years, and then I went back.
How do you do that if you operate and you have to cross post through pages for work? That's the hard part.
You can set your Instagram will automatically post.
I guess I just have
to your Facebook page.
Yeah.
What you can do is you can just delete the app, your Facebook app.
Delete the app. It's
delete the app. It has to be off. And just it takes self-discipline, but yeah, do 30 days of just I'm not going to go, because you're going to delete the app and then be like, well, I can still go www.facebook.com and it'll log me right in. But you gotta avoid the temptation.
You gotta be serious about it.
Yeah,
so.
you got to just like anything else you're trying to quit.
So you're in the middle of this. I'm curious because you're doing a pause for the cause. I've done pauses for the cause before. I've even done a pause for cannabis for like 2.5 months and still pop dirty trying to get a job.
Wow.
So that's where like, my cannabis story isn't just that I was a punk rock teenager. It was also that I've navigated, staying legal was easier. But it still affected me in ways of like, I worked at a studio for 5 years and they had to let me go because we were in a high profile place in Lee Summit and they didn't want me being actively, I wasn't smoking weed on property, but I lived close by, and all of a sudden somebody found out, and there was a reputation, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, their studio's James, he's a weed smoker, you know what I mean? And that's because the stigma 10 years ago was still like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 10 years ago,
especially in Lee Summit.
So 10 years ago that happened. So I kind of, that was one of the reasons that I was told that I was let go, is because I was a cannabis consumer and I was open about it. After 5 years, I tried to go get another job after 2.5 months, still pissed dirty, to be an AV tech for a hotel.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And so like, and they turned me down. They were like, you're perfect for the job, but we can't have you here. So,
wow.
So I
archaic thinking.
Yeah. And so that's what the thing, like me today, kcweedblog is, I still have some unpacking to do myself of the history of it and how we got to here. And was it worth it?
Yeah.
Has it been worth it to me to ride this long, especially now that I'm all in?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody asked me if I wanted to do some work at the end of this month at contract with the company that I worked for plenty of times, but because it's a hard hat zone, I got to pee in a cup just to show up on the job site.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I could probably produce a winning test result for you, but I run a blog about cannabis.
Right.
So anybody on that site knows anything, we're fucked. You're done.
You still can't get on there and fail a test if you have your card?
There's no protection for that. So OSHA and shit like that doesn't care.
Okay.
It doesn't, just because you have your card. Here's the thing. I say people get your card. The best thing about getting your card is knowing that you're legal.
Just in the cop's eyes.
Just on the cop's eyes.
But
right?
As far as businesses go, you might not be protected.
No, you're not protected.
Right.
And you're not going to be protected for a while. And there are people that are trying to work on that. But how do you do that? How do you adjust what's a tolerable level of impairment for a job site when you're talking about people that are building structures and stuff like that?
Well, so that's the problem with weed, is it stays in your system for so long. Like you were saying, you were clean for 2.5 months and still pissed dirty.
Right. And they wouldn't even let me like point lights and, plug in speakers. Right.
Right.
So, and it's because when you work in those environments, you have to have safety's key. So one thing that I learned a long time ago as a punk rock kid was that put your polo shirt on, follow all of the safety protocols.
Play the game.
Don't put yourself in a position to be the dumbass fucking stoner that just ruined everything. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I was always fighting against. It was like, let's not fuck this up. Let's not fuck this up. So I get out on a job site or a gig and people will be like, oh, I know when to just kind of give you a moment. And it's because I'm so tight processed because I had to be. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because if I slipped, somebody might say something or start looking into why'd James slip right there, right? So I don't know where I was going with that, but it's been part of the process of going from a kid that was getting in trouble, dare era, to some might have said, oh, James could have ruined his 20s because he would not stop smoking weed, right? I made that choice,
right?
Because as soon as I didn't get that job, I went right back to smoking. You know what I'm saying? I was like,
of course you did.
I was like, well, this was fucking stupid. It was a waste of my time.
Yeah.
It was a waste of my time. And
it was 2.5 months. You could have been blazing.
So I made the decision at like the age 29 to just go ahead and just keep smoking because that's what was good for me at the time. I lost about 80 pounds over the course of like 6 months smoking weed and working out. And I worked when I could, took a local bartending job for a while, started to slowly kind of put my life back together after losing the salary. But I literally went for like a 50% reduction of what I made from the year before. You know what I mean? So I went from like 50 to 25 in 1 year. And I didn't have a family at the time, so it wasn't as big of a deal, but it was a whole new process of me having to rebuild myself, rebuilding myself and who I was. So when I rebuilt myself, cannabis was a positive thing and it helped me stay on track. But I went back into corporate install, IT, smart work, right? Where you can't do that.
Right.
So that's when it was just like, okay, we're going to do this again, James, but we're going to do it the right way. And so it turned into a system of smoke weed before you get in the shower. That way, as soon as you get out of the shower, they don't smell it on you anymore.
Listen up, kids.
Drink your coffee. You're good to go. Get to work. Do your shit. Follow the safety
Irish
protocols.
shower?
What's that?
Take an Irish shower.
What's an Irish shower?
You spritz yourself with a bunch of cologne all over.
Fuck that. Don't do that. First of all, that's like the dead giveaway, right? I mean, come on now. Because that doesn't mask anything. It just mixes it. And then everybody just knows at that point. It's just your best bet.
Cannabis for men.
Your best bet is if you have to be somewhere and you don't want to smell like weed, is just consume, shower, and then go, right?
Yeah.
That's so that's what I did for 9 years. And I got off work and then I did my thing. And on the weekends I had fun. And then once, like I said, that's why when it finally passed, when the law finally passed, hey, I can run a blog now. I can put my name on this for the most part.
Yeah.
Right.
So
still not all it's,
So as, as someone who is very ignorant to the medicinal scene or any of the scene here in Missouri, once you get your recommendation and you get your card, boom, you can go to a dispensary, right? Just walk in. Do you have to have a card to go into these dispensaries? Or can anybody go in there and just look?
So you could walk into the lobby, right? And you could talk to the receptionist and because you still have to have delivery drivers, right?
What do you mean?
Well, FedEx still has to, you're a business now. So you got FedEx drivers that have to walk into these companies, right? And I didn't mean it like that, like FedEx was delivering.
Yeah.
I meant that people get deliveries in businesses.
Right.
So to walk in the building, just in the front door, you may not need a patient card or a facility license agent, right? You could just be a regular dude. You could be the delivery driver. You could walk in, say, here's your mail. You could walk in and say, here's your mail if you're supposed to be there, and you can walk out. You're never going to get inside the actual part where they dispense cannabis, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So to do that, to cross that threshold, you have to have a patient card that's valid. And then, or you have to have a facility agent card that means that hey, I'm a bud tender. I've got my weed license versus I've got a liquor license.
Okay.
So the staff. So you have either one of those. You can walk past the threshold and you can do business and exchange cannabis. A bud tender can dispense it to you and you can buy it from them. And I think some places are still mostly cash. I've only used cash when I've gone to places so far. And then you're good.
As far as I've heard this rumor, and maybe it's not a rumor, maybe it's true, but I've heard that once you get your medicinal license, you can no longer purchase a gun.
Yeah.
Have you heard that?
I've heard that argument plenty of times.
The argument, but is that true? Can medicinal card holders still go out and purchase a firearm?
The conversation changes every day because until it's they can have laws and regulations. Are they enforcing it or not? Right. So I know people that have that are card holders and have a healthy Missouri stock of firearms. You know what I'm saying? And
But I'm sure they probably had that
they did.
before.
They did.
Yeah.
And so then I've also heard from those people, because it's not a world that I even know anything about.
Right.
But I have heard from other people in cannabis that are like, if you go to a store, or when they run like a full background check versus a trade show or something else, like the systems aren't connected. You're not going to flag in a system because you have a cannabis patient card.
Okay.
You're not going to just pop up.
Get flagged for
Yeah.
it.
So
Okay.
unless something stupid happens, nobody's ever going to know, right?
Okay.
Now you can't, like I said, you can't go to the store and do, I guess, that deal. I don't know how that works. I don't know where the difference is between a store firearm purchase and a trade show firearm purchase exist.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. The gun
But
shows.
I've heard that there's some differencing there. And is
Okay.
that because
Well,
because you just go to a trade show and you can just buy whatever you want on site?
They still have to do some kind of background check, and I believe it has to depend on what type of weapon you're buying. Pistol handguns, I believe, are an automatic 6-day wait period or something like that. But then as far as rifles go, I think rifles you can just get. I think even if you go into Walmart,
You can just buy a
you
rifle
can just
at any time.
buy. I know you can buy. I think you just buy a shotgun.
Really? Okay.
You just going. But I think pistols are different for whatever reason.
Do you get to? So they have to. No.
I don't know. I know. I'm sitting here with this "I'm pro gun" T-shirt on right now.
Yeah.
But I don't really know all that much about. I'm not huge in the gun world.
Here's the thing. There are.
I own a couple, but
there are people in the world, and here's my take on it. There are people in the world that have been cannabis using gun owners for a long time.
yeah,
And I've to this day, the only cannabis gun related incident that I've ever heard of was because of the police.
right.
So when it comes to all the families that have been, because there's people that have been consuming cannabis even though it's been illegal for years. The outlaws in the
No way.
in the counties, right? Come on now. So, they're the kings of just managing their shit and not talking
Yeah.
about it, right? So there's that.
Yeah, I'm only asking for the people out there that, like I said, it's just a rumor that I keep hearing. I hear a lot of gun enthusiasts say, "Oh, I'm not going to get my card because then I can't purchase a weapon anymore." I was like, "Huh? I wonder if that's actually true."
Well, the system, like I said, the systems aren't just, you're not just going to pop up.
Right.
You don't just all of a sudden ping on the map and they're like, let's go get this guy.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. I mean, you know how hard it is to like tag your vehicle? You have to go to this agency and this agency and this agency because their systems don't talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
You think they're, you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know.
so yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So, that's kind of like a use at your own discretion advice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this definitely not legal advice in that realm, but I think
Google it, people.
as long as you're not doing anything stupid, I think that there would be people that would help support you should you get in trouble. And as long as you're not being stupid and following the laws, I think that you could probably go to a trade show or make transactions, or maybe you can work with your neighborhood. Go support your neighborhood guy instead. Don't go to Walmart. Go to your neighborhood dealer and ask, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, for sure.
take it back to the old school where you
Yeah.
work with a dealer and you work with your buddy because your buddy's cool. And that's not legal advice either.
Yeah, the Neanderthal podcast does not necessarily stand behind everything these guests say.
But you get what I'm saying? Like, so challenge it if you want, but I don't think you have to.
Yeah.
So don't make things that are a fight that are not. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, like I said, I didn't know. I wanted to know
it's
if
possible.
you knew. When you go into these dispensaries, you've been into the dispensaries here in Missouri?
Yeah, I got to try them out. As kcweedblog,
Right.
as a, I've pulled some content for other companies too. So like, obviously,
Yeah.
it's like I want to shop inside.
How would you compare them to other places that you've been, like Nevada and Colorado? What are our dispensaries like now here? Because I know they're very young.
I mean, they're definitely a lot more polished, because when I went to dispensaries in California, that long ago, 10 years ago, it was just like a run of the mill spot. It was the worn down laundromat.
Well, how about like the updated place, like today's? Like, how do they compare to today's?
Everything in Missouri that I've walked into has been like the brand new construction. This is like franchise level building. It wasn't like any kind of like, mom and pop business can start a computer store in the side of a retail space.
Right.
Right. But everything that you see today is all flagship based. It's like bright lights, meant to look polished and clean. And
Are these big companies that have a lot of these dispensaries, or is it just small time people? Like, well, like who's getting involved with these dispensaries? Because I don't know.
So
Curious.
that's part of the contention too, is that, you know, if you have the funds to produce a really super high score and go in there and grab a license, if you're not from here, you know, you could potentially go in there.
Oh, it's people that are getting these licenses that aren't even from Missouri, huh?
Well, and I don't know the actual statistics on how that breaks down. And here's the thing: is that
That's where the politics start getting. We start bringing other.
So
people.
you know what I like to call it? I call it the anchor baby, right? So check this out. Check this concept out, okay?
Uh-huh.
So you have I think in the requirements you had to have like a 51% owner that was a resident of Missouri.
Okay.
Right. 51%.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know what an anchor baby is?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. So think of an anchor baby,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just have all these people that are coming in and out of town that want to run some shit. You know, grab a license, grab as much of the market they can, put as many, you know, and then just come back out and flip it. So that's the biggest kind of fuck you, is that it seemed like a lot more small businesses got denied. A lot of Missouri money got denied, or a lot of the out of state money got through.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we're probably looking at some of the highest cost product right now, because, you know, there's a lot to pay back.
What is the cost like compared to a Colorado?
So
or another state that might be more that's purely medicinal. Like, because I know Colorado's got recreational, so I'm sure there's a difference. I'm just assuming there's a difference between medical prices. And
I want to make the distinction on that right now, is that there's no difference in the plant. So
no, I know that.
Yeah.
But as far as pricing goes,
right? No, they just sell it differently because of the taxing and the regulations that
Right.
it goes. So if I remember correctly, when I was out there, because I haven't actually been back to Colorado until like 2016, 2017, maybe was my last trip.
okay,
It's right about the time my daughter was born, and I just kind of stopped traveling. And so at the time, I remember some of the places that I was working for, they were doing like $99, $100 ounces out the door for medical. And then you'd see like maybe 180 to 220 for recreational, this exact same product, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, okay, so people are buying $100 ounces here in Colorado on the medical side, and, you know, they're serving tourists for an upcharge,
Mm-hmm.
right? And here in Missouri right now, it's priced, I think they said like $4.80 an ounce.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Is where, like, I think so I've already seen a couple, so new dispensaries are already coming online, and they're going to bring that average down.
Right.
But as of when that statistic was posted, $4.80 was the cost of an ounce at a dispensary.
Now, how is that so that 480 ounce, is that like the primo? Is that as good as weed can get, or is that kind of like mid-grade stuff? Like,
I'm not a scientist, so I can't answer that question.
Okay.
I say that here's a response to that question. Okay.
mm-hmm.
So in January, I think right at the end of January, I stopped talking. I didn't stop talking to my dude. It was just like he was between some cycles on the grow cycles and stuff like that. And instead of just talking to some other friends or whatever, I mean, should I do a show about cannabis every week? I could have just asked anybody. But I kind of did this own experiment of mine where I went 60 days of just buying from the dispensaries.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it was because they were sponsoring some of the shows that we were doing. So I was like, hey, I can go back, I can give back a little bit or whatever, see what this is like,
Mm-hmm.
and get to be known, right?
Right.
If I never walk into a dispensary, I'm never going to see what the process is like. I'm never going to meet people that are involved. And I wanted to do that too. And so I'll still go into a dispensary and buy on occasion. I probably won't be doing that much in the future because I'm growing on my own now, and like there's a window where it's probably going to close for me where I would need a dispensary. So, you know, does that make sense? Like
A window of what? You're out of plants and you're waiting for the next crop to come in, or what?
something like that. Yeah,
Okay.
It's not just this is my only option. It's just that it's always there if I need it, but I'm probably not going to go. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Like, and so I
gotcha.
And I've been going.
I'll read between the lines.
Right. So, but I will say this. In 60 days, because I can go back and look at my order history, in 60 days,
Mm-hmm.
I spent $1,000 at the dispensaries.
Wow.
And it was just like, that's how much I consumed buying at that price.
Okay.
So in
Well,
60
how much were you buying at a time? Does it break down?
I was buying eighths at a time.
Does eighths?
It was like eighth for like $70 for an eighth after taxes. Right.
Oh my God.
I can't remember what it was. My
It's
body.
cheaper on the street, I imagine.
It's way cheaper on the street. And I didn't even have to go far. I could have just gone anywhere else.
Right.
Because I know 100 different people that.
So, but how is the quality in the dispensary? Is it when you were getting your 8th? How did it compare to, street level stuff? If you happen to have partake in some of that.
So that's where it's like, I start mixing jars around. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to tell. Like,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like it's not, and I think it's because I kind of waited and avoided some of the early stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing is that the stakes are so high right now. I think there's probably some cannabis that was produced that didn't get released, that they said, no, we're going to hold this back and stuff like that because, or I heard that there were some places that might've failed some testing on their first run. So the people that did get out the gate and put some stuff out there, it's pretty good. You know what I'm saying? Like I went 60 days and I wasn't like, oh, I'm missing something.
Okay.
I was just saying, oh, I went 60 days and man, I'm spending way too much money.
Yeah.
Because that's a fucking car payment, $500 a month. Like
It's a fucking nice car payment.
it's more than my car payment.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I was like, this isn't sustainable. Okay.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, my buddy calls me. He's like, James, we good again. You know what I mean? So it's, I was like, great, cool. But I did that experience as something to talk about too.
For sure.
I can say, I'm not, people might question on whether I'm like patient focused enough. And my thing is that I will admit I'm 20 years recreational James, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been out here for a while doing it. I support the cause. I support patients' rights. I support their access to free, or not free, but affordable medicine, or free. It could be free. You know what I mean? Like if we didn't have to hyper regulate it, it could be like some tomatoes out of the garden that you just give to your neighbor. And that would be cool too.
Yeah.
I totally support that. Cause I don't need to make money off cannabis. I make money on AV. And that's what I do. I'm a contractor, you know what I mean? And I DJ and stuff like
awesome.
that. So kcweedblog was never something that I was going to be like, here's the magic idea. Here's how we're going to get rich, boys. Here's how it's going to happen.
Right. It's a passion project that you want to start.
Yeah. So when I wrote those security plans for those companies that paid me to do that, you know what I did with that? I took that money and I paid some bands that I could find. And I said, hey, what do you need to play a show on a Friday night at First Fridays in Crossroads? And they said, here, this is what we need. And I'm like, here. I didn't even negotiate with them. I just said, all right, here go.
Nice.
So I spent $3,000 of that money just bringing some bands in. And because it was the first Friday after that gal unfortunately got shot, that kind of changed the landscape.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
It was like September or something of 2019. Is that right? Somewhere around there,
Sounds
maybe?
right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we didn't get quite the turnout that we'd hoped. And I was just like, kill the door charge, just let everybody in,
Mm-hmm.
And so I put $3,000 out of what I made right back into that party. And like, if I'm going to do anything with kcweedblog going forward on a big scale, that's really all I want to do. You
Okay, cool.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want it. So now I'm like, I can produce the podcast. It's just me. I'm not chasing anything. I'm just talking about the ride.
Awesome.
You know what I mean? But if there was ever any money that came my way, if you give me money, all I'm going to do is like buy more gear or try to throw some parties.
Right on.
So that's where it is for me. And it makes it cool because it doesn't have to be a job.
For sure. If you love what you're doing, it's not a job.
Yeah.
So when these dispensaries get their pot, does it have to be grown in Missouri?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so was that different for these these dispensaries that were applying for licenses? Were they also saying, hey, I'm the grower, or was that completely separate? Was there like different growing facilities that had to put in for something that they could sell to dispensaries?
Well, so they broke it down even in the licensing. They said that there's going to be, or the limits of licensing that were put out there's only going to be 60 cultivators. There's only going to be 60 licenses to cultivate.
Whoa.
And which actually
at a commercial.
Yeah, at a commercial
size production, I guess.
But so hear me out on this. So there was only going to be 60 licenses for cultivation, but the way it shook out was that I think only 27 groups won licenses because you could win multiple.
Oh, no.
So that's how tight they made that. So 27 groups that are in charge of growing cannabis for the state of Missouri, right? So that's where it starts. That's the biggest problem that we have right now. And what so yeah, I don't know where you're going. What's the follow up to that then? I mean, that's how big the situation is.
I was just curious on where these people were getting their plant from, where they're getting their product from.
They're only going to get it from one of 27, 28 groups that exist out there. You know what I mean? And so
and now
which eliminates smaller grows that could just be up to and running tomorrow and producing for the neighborhood, right? Mm-hmm. That's the biggest problem is that they forced everybody to be they made it so contentious that you have to build these like mega
Okay.
mega grow ops.
It's starting to come together. I can see where there is contention. I can see where there is drama. I can see where there's different haters.
And your boy down the street can't just go get a business license from the city,
right,
and start a 10 light grow on his own.
Right.
And produce for patients, and then
like a microbrew. I'm going to grow my little batch, and I'm going to sell it to these different dispensaries.
Right. So that's the biggest get, is that you put so much.
That makes any sense, man. Oh, fuck. That's why it needs to be federally legalized.
Right.
Get rid of all this stupid shit. Just like across the board, boom.
Right. So it's better. Sometimes it's better to not know. If you don't want to ruin cannabis for yourself, don't get too close to the sun. Is what I say on that. And there's times where I feel like I'm flying a little close to the sun on it, and I'm just like, ooh.
Well, I get it.
Oh, mate, what did I do here? I almost made this unfun, but I'm kind of figuring out a way to make it fun for me.
Well, people know who Icarus is. Sometimes you got to fly a little too close. It's
right,
fine. Well, that's a bummer. I don't like that. Well,
we can change it. So there's going to be times, and activists and people in the community know what's going on day to day. It seems like they're always kind of following it because they're waiting for the next piece of the puzzle to fall into place, and it sucks because it's slow. And it's a lot of, somebody rattles a cage, and the cage is rattled, and everybody responses, and whatever. Mm-hmm. But really, we're all going to have an option, I think, here in the state of Missouri to either try to legalize it either one way or another. It sounds like there's going to be petitions that are going to be circulated as early as this next spring to vote for an adult use for the state of Missouri. Anyway, I have no prediction, and I have no hope for federal. Because I've never seen it. You know what I'm saying? Never seen it.
I hope for it.
I think my older cousins talked about it when Clinton was in office. I might have been a little too young to be a consumer at that point in time, but they're like, why didn't he do it, man?
I didn't inhale.
I know he bailed on it, and then everybody thought Obama was going to do it for a minute too, and that didn't happen. And then you're like, if Trump would have done it, that would have been all right with me too. I would at least give him that. I'm not a super fan, but at the same time, I'm like, whatever.
Right.
Can somebody just kick that can down the road? And stop being.
Yeah,
Can you stop holding
Biden?
Stop holding everybody.
Which doesn't look good. He just fired a whole bunch of staff members. This idiot. He says, "Hey, staff members, if you ever smoked weed, tell us. Don't worry, it's okay."
Yeah.
Hey, we smoked weed, and it was from a state that it was legal. Oh, I'm sorry, but we have to fire you. Oh, but what about your vice president?
So here's where cannabis can be a nonpartisan issue, is that. You can say, you know what, if you love freedom and you love free market, you should allow this to happen. You know what I mean? If you love personal freedoms, you should love for this to happen. And I think
speaking like a libertarian now.
It could be nonpartisan though. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that is close to where I would put myself at times, I guess. But I'm a free radical. I'm just a. Yeah. I don't have a
do what you want. If you ain't hurting anybody, do what you want. It's right. My thought.
But that's where I feel like that compromise could be just kind of meet everybody's expectations, right? Mm-hmm. Like, hey, here's a plant that can heal. Hey, we should have a free market.
Fuck that. That doesn't. We've been trying that forever. That doesn't work with them. Here's a plant that'll make you money. Here's a plant that's going to bring. Look at.
That's almost what we had. That's almost what had
so much money in Colorado right? from taxes. They had to give money back.
That's what they had. That was the only way they were going to let it happen, right? That had to happen that way.
Well, yeah, and now I can see what they're. I see them pushing it in other ways too to get it legalized. Like they're just saying, all right, well, we're going to do like a form of reparations now for black people with sales from the taxes that they make from this. And so that's like, I think Illinois was starting to do that.
Right.
So there's different ways that different people are trying to push it to finally, I see people trying to work the system and finally get it out there.
Right.
I got some hope, man. But I am an optimistic dude.
Right.
For the most part.
I'd love to see it at federal. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad that they're at least talking about it.
We'll eventually see it. It's just
they're pushing for it.
Our kids will see it.
Right. Well, and that's
we'll see it too.
Here's the hope for my kid, right? Here's the hope that my kid at age 20, that gives us 15 more years to get past all this hyper-regulation bullshit. Mm-hmm. If in 15 years we can get to a point where cannabis can just be grown in the backyard and you can just give it to your neighbor, or you could turn it into a microbrew business, and you want to try to compete with the big franchises, then by all means go do it.
Yeah.
And have perfect freedom to do so. It's got to be off the books completely. Nobody should ever get in trouble for cannabis ever again. Right. You know what I mean? Like, unless you're doing, I don't know, like lifting a ton of weed over somebody's head
And drop it on them.
drop it on them. I mean, then I think I think those laws are already established.
I think so.
So don't. Yeah. So you know what I'm saying though. But like my hope is that 15 years down the road, or 10 to 15 years. I mean, tomorrow would be awesome too. But that my daughter grows up in a world where she can have that personal choice, not necessarily just with cannabis, but with all things, with all plant medicines. And maybe it's time to wind back as a society of our pill chasing dependency.
Yeah, for sure.
And
destroying us.
Those stories will make you cry.
Oh, they're haunting. They're horrible.
Yeah.
I wish everything was legalized, to be honest, or at least decriminalized everything. Well, that's a whole separate podcast. James, before we get out of here, I do have one more little topic I'd like to discuss with you.
Sure.
And that is the Delta 8.
Delta 8, sure.
Delta 8 is now a legal form of weed.
Sure.
It's the THC Delta 9 is what gets you high and is illegal.
You know who delivered my Delta 8 to me?
Mm-mm.
My mail person.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you got it through the mail?
Yeah, I got it through the mail.
Well, it's federally legal, right? There's some kind of loophole. It's somehow legal. You can buy it in at present time.
At present time.
My question to you is kind of about it. Because I've tried it. I didn't like it.
Okay.
It reminded me a lot of K2, K3. Not quite as speedy, not quite as chemically, but it just feels like obviously that there's something missing. And it didn't give me paranoia, but it gave me a little bit of anxiety, like a little anxious feeling. I don't know. It just felt like what it is, I guess. It felt like it was a drug that's trying to escape the system through some kind of loophole. You know what I mean?
So it's and the fact that you said K2 in that conversation is that I remember when K2 was just first coming out, like 10 years ago, or maybe a little bit. I don't know.
Roughly 10 years. Yeah.
And all of a sudden you had all your and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but you had your like your military friends and your your police friends and your firefighter friends that were you're like, oh, bro, you're smoking again? Like, welcome back to the party. It's like, no, this is like the K2 thing. Mm-hmm. It's what I can do because it doesn't show up in my system. And so that's the only people I knew that used K2 were the ones that were trying to use a synthetic form of cannabis to avoid being judged by their employers, the federal.
I don't think it was being
government.
judged. I think it was just being busted.
Well,
dropping dirty.
Judge is the chill version of saying that. Obviously pulling stripes, or firing somebody, or
right.
And terminating careers and stuff like that. So, I don't know where I was going with that part, but because I'm starting to feel good on the medication. But we're talking about Delta 8. So, and we were relating it to K2. Sorry. But yeah, I had the same concerns going in. So I only took Delta 8 once about a week ago. It was that same pack that I just gave you. So I was just like, I'm sorry I didn't know about that story, or if you had a bad experience or don't like it even. It was more of like hey, maybe you should try this too, because a jury's out for me. I took 100 milligrams first shot, and I didn't really, like I said, I felt my eyes got a little bit more red, but I'm accustomed to consuming like 3 or 4 bowls of cannabis.
Did you smoke it or just eat it, the Delta 8?
I just ate it.
Okay. I've smoked it. I've had it in the vapor.
Oh,
the vape pens.
Yeah.
You can get it at the CBD shop for it's like $40 for.
So the stuff that I gave you comes highly recommended from another company that's over on the St. Louis side, some guys that I truly trust. So here's what I'm going to say to anybody that's interested in trying anything. Don't go buy it from a gas station. Go to somebody known for either producing hemp or cannabis or whatever. Don't buy it from the grocery store and stuff like that. There are small business reputable companies that are worth supporting that can send this to you that are good. And I think that just kind of goes across the board for all things that you would ever try to order either online or,
right.
You know what I'm saying? So Delta 8 maybe. So that's what I'm saying. If you had an experience with one, maybe your experience with another is different. So that's kind of like a results may vary based on who produces.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sure. Well, but what exactly is it? Is it actually a plant, or is it like K2 where they sprayed stuff on plant matter?
So there's 2 parts to that, right?
Okay.
There are people that do they'll spray it on like a CBD joint to kind of give you that full effect or whatever, right?
Okay.
Versus where the people that I think produce my stuff, there's purist companies out there that are like, you don't need any psychoactivity at all. You just want this. And so, there's people that produce obviously CBD products that there's zero psychoactivity.
Right.
and it still might make you feel a little bit more calm, a little bit more relaxed.
It relaxes me. CBD will relax me.
Okay.
I'll smoke a CBD joint and it'll calm me down.
But you're not getting any kind of like
oh no,
psychedelic
you don't get
effects.
stoned. You're not high. You're not.
So
yeah.
I didn't have any. Psychoactive effects or results from Delta 8 at all. Okay. Whereas if I would have taken 100 milligram edible of regular, I say regular, but I mean, a store bought THC cannabis product, then I would feel a little kind of like, man, I'm a little hazy right now. You know what I mean? Like, but I've also got a high threshold. So my threshold, I could take a 200 milligram edible. I know that some people can't take more than 10.
I know. Isn't
that
crazy?
Yeah, I know, it's weird. So if you try Delta 8, definitely the start low, start slow. You know what I mean? That's what we all say when it comes to edibles. Start low, start slow. I walked into the studio, fired up a bowl, passed something back and forth. That doesn't bother me. If I'm at a gathering or a to-do or whatever, and somebody comes up to me and hands me an edible and it doesn't have the label on it or packaging on it, I probably won't take it from you. Don't take offense.
Really?
It's just that
you don't want to gamble. You don't want an hour later to be drooling and talking about aliens and thinking you're in another dimension.
No, because I won't. No, because I won't be talking about aliens or drooling in the corner. I'll be slower than I want to be.
Yeah,
is what it really boils down to.
Okay,
you know what I mean, like, okay, so if I want to get on a flight, if I want to get a 4-hour flight, I might take 300 milligrams in an edible, and I might just like put my headphones on and just 4-hour flight, dude. Yeah. I can sit here. Maybe I'll sleep. Maybe I won't. Whatever. But when I land, I'm not going to be, hopefully, probably shouldn't be driving at that point, but by the next day, I'll be fine. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to go to 500 or 1,000. I don't have a point to prove by being like, oh, I could take 1,000 milligrams every day. I don't need that. I actually I never take edibles. I just like smoke. So,
well, if you're having to do 300-400 milligrams, you can't really afford edibles.
I don't.
You know what I mean?
So they're pretty expensive too. That I haven't bought any yet, but I wouldn't. So
could you imagine?
Yeah. Like I was a kid. I made brownies in the kitchen when I was a teenager. I learned how to do that. It went from using like fucking shake and seeds and stems to all of a sudden like, all right, guys, this is it. We're gonna press all these nugs into this fucking brownie mix tonight, and we're all gonna take like 2, right? And then you know what happens is the tray comes out and everybody fucking slices a third off that thing, and next thing you know, everybody just ate 6, and now you're just like, pow, right? Yeah. So I try not to go there if I don't have to. So if you come up to me and hand me something, you try to at least tell me what is in it so I know, because I can say, perfect, I can have 50 and still be at a social function with my wife and still be a responsible adult to drive my family home. But if you give me too much, that could change. Yeah. So that's how I leave it. You know what I mean? And what's funny is that I can consume flower. I can dab all day if I want to. Like I've had concentrates. I mean, I was working in Colorado. So I went from, I actually almost did like 2 years of just concentrate only before Missouri legalized. Excuse me. But then when that happened, I just kind of stopped getting them. But I prefer the concentrates. So I could sit here and take like a vape hit once every like 20, 30 minutes all day long and just go. Mm-hmm. Job unaffected, no problem.
Nice.
But I take an edible and I'm like, fuck. Something about the body weight, body sugar, stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess like the technique. I don't know. I know a little bit about it. Just when it hits your liver.
So to answer your original question, Delta 8, I have no fucking clue.
Okay.
All I know is that it made my eyes red and it kind of felt like it a little bit. I made sure not to consume any cannabis, but at the same time, I probably could have smoked a bowl on top of it and been fine too.
Yeah, I was just curious about it because I've been seeing it a lot of places right now. And it just reminded me a lot of the K2 stuff.
What I'm willing to do at this point is I would probably be willing to do, like, instead of just leaving it 100 milligrams, maybe trying to push the line at like 300 or 400 and see how it compares. But again, what am I chasing? Because I'm recreational. I'm not chasing.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you don't need to skate some system of losing a job, why would you? I mean, I don't know. That's my point. Is why would you go to Delta 8 when you could just do CBD or THC?
Because it's cheap. It's cheap and it's easy to get. I mean, it was cheaper than probably what the gummies. The Delta 8 that I got shipped directly to me at my house. However, was cheaper than if I went to a dispensary and bought edibles there. So that's where I'm not a good person to speak about. The pain mitigation of cannabis, because I've always been a recreational person. I understand, and I will root for that cause any day of the week. But I don't personally need to consume cannabis to physically feel better. I do it primarily. My focus is the psychic effects. Like I want to feel that rush. I want to feel that vibe. I want to get on that level. You know what I mean? And that's what I kind of relate it to as well. Like when Winna says on that level, like I feel like, yeah, we're on this level, we're cranking, we're doing this, we're playing guitar. Because I can consume cannabis and pick up a guitar and just rock that fretboard. If I have like 3 beers, it kind of goes to shit a little bit faster.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So motor skills. So cannabis never really affected me motor skill wise.
Okay.
It kind of made it to where I was like, sky's the limit, James. Just keep consuming and go do this. I'll smoke like 2-3 bowls, go to the gym. And then I'll get home and I'll smoke another bowl.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then if I have a social function, I'll smoke real quick, jump in the shower, clean up, put on a collar shirt, and go. So I'm not the guy that you find on the couch. I've been a video gamer before, but I've realized that sitting around smoking weed and playing video games is not like healthy for me in terms of spending so much time sitting down and not doing anything versus what I was doing kind of before COVID. Was going out and riding bikes and having fun, and it was like Adventureland all the time, like Adventureland, like a bit of a cool buzz and going off and doing fun things and kicking it with the family as needed. And it was a way better experience than like day drinking and partying hard.
Oh yeah.
So like
that shit'll take its toll on you too.
So what's the best part about all of this now is that I can actually talk openly about how I've incorporated cannabis into my regular life for a long time and can just keep on going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you were like, hey, James, we got a couple minutes and we're going to go set up a band for like 3 hours. I'd be like, cool, let's move carts. Let's plug in cables. Let's go rock and roll. Hey, bring some concentrate so we can take a vape hit out back real quick before we get right back into what we're doing. And I've kind of lived that lifestyle since probably music college. That's probably what music college taught me, going all the way back to like 2002 when I started, is that, I could be good in the studio. I could be good with mics and lights and mixers and all that stuff. And as long as I get over the anxiety of performing under the effects of cannabis, I've already won.
Nice.
You take away that anxious layer and everything's just a lot easier.
Dope.
And that's what I try to do with my life, is just like avoid the anxiety as much as possible, double, triple check, safety. But then, man, if you do that, you can just kind of play around and get out there and enjoy the creative side of life and what it has to offer. Just in your own mind.
James, kcweedblog.
I don't know if any of that made any sense.
You're a Jedi stoner.
I just went to space.
You're a Jedi stoner, baby. I appreciate you doing this, man. Is there any plugs here you'd like to shout out, or anything you'd like to say before we end this? And I once again like to just thank you again for coming in here and spilling all your knowledge. And
I could talk for hours, and I'm learning how to do that more and more every day. So it's all good. Yeah, kcweedblog, check it out. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I've got a website, but that's a little outdated. You can start finding me on Apple and Spotify because I'm starting to roll audio as well too.
Yeah, what's your podcast gonna be called, or what
it's
is
just it? KcWeedblog.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Just keeping it all in one spot.
Got to. Nice.
So here's a real quick sidebar to that. I used to help operate a podcast out of Independence called Death Wish Radio.
Okay.
At a house with some dudes, and this was probably like a good 10 years ago, and all we did was sit around and record ourselves. Basically, Friday night, whiskey, metal, let's listen to rock and like hard stuff. So like the idea of podcasting to me has been fun because, man, I've done it a couple times in different variations in life over the last 10 years too. Yeah. So that's kind of what I try to bring to the table as well, is like, okay, I've done it before. I don't need to be in a hurry. I don't need sponsors. I'm just going to slow roll this thing. So kcweedblog is just that slow roll. You'll see me around for a long time, but I just wanted to throw that out there because I've done a podcast in Independence before. Since
nice.
That's where we're at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, check that out. Educate yourselves. It's easy to find if you have any questions. The only question that I say that I don't want you to ask me through kcweedblog is don't ask me for weed. No, I don't want to be that guy, but I've had at least 100 or more on all social platforms that will message me usually at night and say, hey man, can you help me out? And I'm sorry guys.
I'm not a weed dealer. I'm not doing that.
I'm not going to be the last guy.
Cop. He's a cop. He's a cop.
I know. I'm not going to be the last guy to get arrested for dealing weed. That's what it.
Right. Just say nice try, officer.
Right. So I apologize apologize if I haven't helped you. It's easy to get a card. If you want to know where to get a card, I can tell you any day of the week. There's lots of options. I make nothing to suggest one way or the other. My reputation's on the line, so I'm not going to steer you. I'm not going to steer you somewhere where I don't truly believe.
Awesome.
And if that changes down the road, and that company that I thought was cool before is not now, I'll say that too. So you know what I mean. And that's the cool liquidness of not having to be attached to anything. A couple organizations that I would support. Go check out Canada Convict Project. If you know anybody that's affected by the war on drugs, could possibly still be incarcerated or have any charges that are still out on their record, reach out to that organization. It's an organization that gets donations from
Canada Convict
Project.
Okay.
Look them up because they can help. If you know somebody that's still being affected by the war on drugs and legality and records, and especially if you know anybody that's still incarcerated for nonviolent cannabis crimes, they're looking for people to help.
Good.
So if you know anybody that needs help, reach out to them for help. And then obviously, if you're interested in know a lot more, the Evolution Magazine live series that we do every Thursday night, 7 p.m. It's on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. I'm a contractor, but it's what I'm doing now with them, and it's an awesome project that I'm very proud of.
Nice.
And we're sharing education from veterans. We've had Mayor Lucas actually signed the ordinance on our show. He did that for us. We didn't know it was going to happen, but he zoomed in and actually signed it on our show for us. Cool. We've got Army veterans that are on there. We've got law enforcement that are on there. We've got legal teams that come on as well. Doctors and not doctors, but nurses. And so there's just a plethora of education. It's kind of like the PBS of cannabis for right now. You know what I mean? And so check that out. It's on all those platforms, 7 p.m. Thursday nights. You might win some free. If you are a patient, you could win free stuff like a gift card to a dispensary and other stuff. Free certifications is what they give out too sometimes. So.
All right. So everyone go check that out.
Yeah.
Do not hit them up if you want weed.
Right.
And if you are a local rapper, do not hit me up. I don't want you.
I'll take the rappers though. Rappers, come talk to me, guys.
No, trust me, you don't. You're gonna have.
I want to throw parties.
No, come to me for that. I'll get you the rappers. I'm just saying, I don't need any of these little tiny local rappers. Hit me up trying to get on my show. It's fucking annoying. That's it. Bye.